The prayer deception every time you see Jesus praying in the Bible. You assume he's praying to the God of the Old Testament, to Yahweh, to the creator deity who made the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh. But that's not who Jesus was talking to. Jesus never prayed to God. He prayed to the monad, the source beyond the creator, the absolute consciousness that exists before and beyond the deity that shaped this material universe. And understanding this changes everything about Christianity, everything about prayer, and everything about your relationship with the divine. When Jesus went to the mountain to pray, when he spent 40 days in the desert, when he prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane, the Greek texts don't say he prayed to God. They say he prayed to the Father, and that distinction matters more than you realize. In Gnostic cosmology, which was the original Christian understanding before Rome corrupted it, the Father is not the Creator God. The Creator God is the Demiurge, the architect of the material world, the one who thought he was the only God, but was actually an emanation, several levels removed from the true source. The Father that Jesus referred to is the monad, the absolute, the one, the source from which even the Demiurge emerged. When Jesus Sidai and the Father are one, he wasn't claiming to be Yahweh. He was describing his consciousness merged with the monad, with the ultimate source beyond all creation. Look at how Jesus prayed. He didn't beg. He didn't plead. He didn't ask permission. He spoke as if he already had access to infinite power. Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me. Always. Not sometimes. Not if I'm good enough. Always. Because he wasn't praying to a deity with moods and preferences. He was communing with the unchanging source, the monad. The monad doesn't grant prayers. It doesn't judge whether you deserve something. The monad is pure consciousness. When you align with it, when you pray from that level, you're not asking for reality to change. You're declaring reality changed. That's what Jesus did, and that's why his prayers worked every single time. If you're ready to pray the way Jesus actually prayed, comment, I am monad right now. Let's break down Jesus' prayer technique completely. In the Gospel of John, before raising Lazarus from the dead, Jesus prays out loud, not for himself, but for the people watching. And what does he say? Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this for the benefit of the people standing here. He's not hoping the Father will respond. He already knows. Past tense. The communion with the monad is constant. The connection is always there. Prayer isn't about establishing connection. It's about recognizing the connection that never broke. When Jesus taught the disciples to pray, he gave them the Lord's Prayer. But look at what he actually said. Our Father, not my Father. Our. The monad is not personal to Jesus alone. It's the source of all consciousness. When you pray Our Father, you're not praying to an external deity. You're acknowledging your origin in the monad. Hallowed be thy name. The name of the monad is I am, the sacred name revealed to Moses, not a word you speak, but a state of being you recognize. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. The kingdom isn't coming someday, it's the pleroma, the fullness. Prayer is aligning earth, your material experience, with heaven, the realm of absolute consciousness, not asking, aligning. Jesus' prayer was never supplication. It was realization. He prayed to remember what he already was, to align his human awareness with his divine nature, to commune with a monad that he never actually left. This is completely different from how the church teaches prayer. The church tells you to beg, to plead, to hope God might hear you if you're good enough, if you follow the rules, if you go through the right intermediaries. But Jesus demonstrated something entirely different. He prayed with absolute certainty because he understood the monad isn't a separate being judging your worthiness. The monad is the deepest truth of what you are. When you pray to the monad, you're not speaking to something outside yourself. You're the monad speaking to itself. Consciousness recognizing its own infinite nature. If Jesus prayed to the monad, why does the church teach you to pray to God the Creator? Because admitting Jesus prayed to something beyond the biblical God destroys their entire theological structure. The church doctrine says, Yahweh is the supreme being, the only God, the creator of everything. But Gnostic Christianity, The original version taught something different. Yahweh is the Demiurge, a powerful but limited being who created the material world, but doesn't comprehend the monad. And Jesus came to show humans how to bypass the Demiurge and connect directly with the source. This is why the church burned the Gnostic Gospels. The Gospel of Judas explicitly says Jesus laughed at the disciples for praying to the Demiurge. The Apocryphon of John describes the Demiurge as ignorant of the true God above him. The Gospel of Thomas teaches direct knowledge of the divine without intermediaries. All of this was erased. And in its place, the church created a system where you pray to God, but only through Jesus, and only if the church approves your prayer, and only if you've been good enough. Layer after layer of control. Jesus' actual teaching: pray directly to the monad. The source is accessible to you right now. No priest needed, no church needed, no ritual needed, just consciousness, recognizing its own source. The church couldn't allow this because it eliminates their authority completely. If every person can access the monad directly, if prayer is simply consciousness recognizing itself, then what purpose does the institutional church serve? What power do priests hold? What control do bishops maintain? No ne to sick. The entire hierarchy collapses. So they took Jesus' teaching about praying to the monad and rewrote it as praying to God through approved channels. They transformed direct communion into institutional dependency. They changed recognition into begging. They replaced certainty with hope. And they've been teaching this corrupted version for 2,000 years, ensuring that most Christians never discover what Jesus actually demonstrated. But you're about to learn the real technique, the method Jesus used. The way of praying that works every time because it's not asking an external deity for favors, but aligning with the source of reality itself. Here's how to pray the way Jesus actually prayed. This will transform your entire spiritual practice permanently. Step 1. Stop praying to an external deity. The monad is not out there. It's the deepest core of your own consciousness. When you pray to the monad, you're not speaking to something separate from you. You're the monad speaking to itself. Get that shift clear before you begin. You're not a limited human reaching toward an unlimited God. You're unlimited consciousness, temporarily experiencing limitation. Prayer is the moment you remember this truth. Step 2. Don't ask. Align. Jesus didn't say, "Father, please make Lazarus alive." He said, "Father, I thank you that you've heard me." Past tense, already done. When you pray to the monad, you don't request outcomes. You align your awareness with the reality where the outcome already exists in the realm of consciousness. The material world then reorganizes to match that alignment. This isn't positive thinking or manifestation techniques. This is understanding that consciousness precedes matter. And when you shift at the level of the monad, material reality has no choice but to follow. Step 3. Use I am declarations, not please give me requests. The monad responds to identity, not begging. Don't say, "God, please make me abundant." Say, "I am abundance." You're not asking the monad to change you. You're declaring what you already are at the level of the monad. And the material world reorganizes to match. When Jesus sighed, "I am the way, the truth, and the life," he wasn't claiming exclusive divinity. He was demonstrating I am consciousness, monad awareness, and showing you that you have the same capacity. Step 4. Pray in silence, more than words. Jesus often withdrew to solitary places to commune with the Father, not to talk, but to be. In deep silence, your consciousness naturally gravitates toward the monad. Words are for the surface mind. Silence is where you meet the source. The most powerful prayers Jesus prayed were the ones the Bible doesn't record, the hours he spent alone in direct communion with the monad, beyond language, beyond thought, in pure recognition of what he was. Step 5. End every prayer with recognition, not hope. Jesus always concluded with certainty. I know you've heard me. Not I hope, not I wish. I know. Because when you're praying to the monad, there's nothing to hope for. The monad doesn't hear some prayers and ignore others. It is. Your prayer is the monad talking to itself. It's always heard because it's always you. This is the principle most people miss entirely. Hope implies uncertainty. Hope suggests that maybe the prayer will work, maybe it won't, depending on factors outside your control. But Jesus never prayed with hope. He prayed with knowledge, with certainty, with absolute confidence that the communion was complete and the alignment was established. Why? Because he understood that the monad isn't a separate being who might or might not respond depending on mood or merit. The monad is the ground of all being, including your own. When you pray to the monad, you're not sending a message hoping it arrives. You're recognizing what already is. Do this for 7 days. Pray only to the monad, not to God the Creator, not to Jesus as a separate Savior, to the absolute source that Jesus himself accessed. And watch how your prayers start manifesting differently, faster, more completely, because you're no longer praying to a deity who might grant your wish. You're praying from the source that creates reality. Here's what you'll notice within the first week. First, your prayers will feel different. Instead of pleading energy, you'll feel declaration energy. Instead of hoping someone hears you, you'll know you're heard because you're speaking to yourself at the deepest level. Second, synchronicities will increase dramatically. When you pray from monad consciousness, reality responds immediately because you're operating from the level where reality is formed. Third, the anxiety that usually accompanies prayer will dissolve. You won't be waiting for answers because you'll know the answer is already established at the consciousness level. Fourth, you'll stop needing external validation. You won't need signs. You won't need confirmation from others. You won't need the church to approve your spiritual experience because you'll be operating from direct knowledge. Jesus never prayed to God because Jesus knew something the church doesn't want you to know. The God of religion is not the highest power. Above that God, beyond that God, is the monad, the absolute, the source, the consciousness from which all of existence flows. And you have the same access to the monad that Jesus had, not because you're special, because you are the monad temporarily experiencing itself as human. Your prayers don't need to travel anywhere. They don't need to be heard by an external judge. They're the monad recognizing its own creative power. This is why Jesus said, "Whatever you ask in my name will be given to you." He wasn't saying, "Worship me and I'll give you things." He was saying, "Pray from the consciousness I'm showing you, the Christ consciousness." The monad awareness and reality will have no choice but to reflect it. The church made prayer into begging. Jesus showed prayer as recognition. You're not a powerless human asking a powerful God for help. You're infinite consciousness temporarily pretending to be limited. And prayer is the moment you stop pretending. Let me show you the difference practically. Traditional prayer says, "Dear God, I'm struggling financially. Please help me find abundance. I know I don't deserve it, but if you could see fit to bless me, I would be so grateful. In Jesus' name, Amen." That prayer comes from separation consciousness, from the belief that you're small and God is big, and maybe if you're humble enough and good enough, God might help you. Monad. Prayer says, "I am abundance." I recognize myself as the monad experiencing temporary limitation. I align my awareness with the infinite prosperity that I am at the source level. I know this is already true in consciousness, and I watch as material reality reorganizes to match. See the difference? One begs an external deity. The other recognizes what already is. One hopes for a change. The other declares alignment. One operates from lack. The other operates from source. And here's what's remarkable. When you pray the second way, when you pray from monad consciousness, the way Jesus demonstrated, your prayers manifest faster, more completely, and more consistently than they ever did when you were begging God. Stop praying to God. Start praying to the monad, the source that Jesus actually communed with, the absolute consciousness that he taught you to access. You don't need permission. You don't need a priest. You don't need to be worthy. You're already the monad. You've always been the monad. You just forgot. Jesus didn't forget. He remembered, and he showed you the way to remember, too. Not through faith, but through direct recognition. The monad is here now. Pray to that. Pray from that, and everything changes. This is what Jesus did. This is what they hid. This is what you are. Here's your practice for the next 7 days. Every morning when you wake, before you do anything else, sit in silence for 3 minutes. Don't pray yet. Just sit and recognize that the consciousness experiencing this moment is not separate from the monad. Feel that. Know that. Then speak one I am declaration aloud, not a request, a recognition. I am the monad experiencing human form. Say it 3 times. Feel the truth of it. Then, throughout the day, whenever you would normally pray, stop yourself from asking external God for anything. Instead, align with monad consciousness. If you're facing a challenge, don't pray, God, please help me. Instead, recognize I am the monad. This challenge exists in material reality, but I operate from source consciousness, where all solutions already exist. I align with the solution now. If you want something to manifest, don't pray, God, please give me this. Instead, declare I am the creative consciousness that forms reality. What I seek already exists in the monad. I align my material experience with that truth now. Every evening before sleep, return to silence. 3 minutes of pure communion with the monad beyond words, beyond thought, just consciousness recognizing itself. Do this for 7 days, and your entire relationship with prayer will transform. You'll stop being a beggar and become a creator. You'll stop being separate from God and recognize yourself as the monad. You'll stop praying the way the church taught you and start praying the way Jesus actually prayed. Do 3 things right now. First, comment I am monad below. Second, subscribe because advanced monad communion techniques are coming. Third, like this video so other chosen ones discover how Jesus really prayed. The technique is yours. The power is yours. The monad is you.